Welcome to the Book Echo, where we dive into the wisdom of great books and distill them into practical, life-changing insights. Today we're exploring Atomic Habits by James Clear, a book that promises to transform your approach to habits, helping you unlock the potential of small changes that can yield remarkable results. Habits are the invisible architecture of our lives. Whether you realize it or not, the habits you follow daily shape everything, from your health and productivity to your mindset and relationships. James Clear presents a compelling idea. Success isn't about making one massive leap forward. It's about making small, consistent improvements that compound over time. It's these seemingly insignificant actions that eventually lead to huge transformations. Think about it this way. If you improve by just 1% every day, by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better than you were when you started. That's the power of atomic habits. Tiny, incremental shifts in behavior that create a ripple effect throughout your life. In this summary, we'll break down the core principles of atomic habits and show you how to apply them. From building new habits to breaking old ones, we'll explore how these strategies can elevate your mindset and actions. So, if you're ready to turn your small daily routines into powerful forces for personal growth, stay with us. Together, we'll uncover the secrets of mastering the habits that shape our lives. Chapter 1: The Power of Small Habits. What are atomic habits? At its core, an atomic habit is a small, seemingly insignificant action that, when repeated consistently over time, leads to profound change. Just like atoms are the building blocks of everything in the physical world, small habits are the building blocks of success, personal growth, and happiness. The term atomic refers to something both tiny and powerful, a perfect analogy for the habits that shape our lives. Atomic habits work because they compound. Each small action adds up, often without you noticing, until one day you look back and realize how far you've come. Think of them as seeds that, once planted, slowly take root and grow into something much larger over time. This is the essence of how small habits can lead to major transformations. Small habits that compound over time. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly improve in all aspects of their lives, while others remain stuck, repeating the same mistakes over and over? The answer lies in the compounding power of habits. Just like compound interest in finance, where small investments grow exponentially over time, your habits, good or bad, compound to shape your future. For example, committing to a 10-minute daily walk may not seem like much, but over a year, it can lead to significant improvements in your health. Similarly, reading a few pages of a book every day may feel trivial, but after a month or two, you've finished several books. It's not about one grand gesture. It's about the accumulation of small, consistent actions. How habits shape our behavior and identity. Our habits don't just influence what we do, they shape who we are. The actions we repeat daily become ingrained in our identity. If you consistently make healthy food choices, you begin to see yourself as a healthy person. If you regularly write, you start identifying as a writer. This is a powerful shift. When your habits align with the person you want to become, lasting change feels natural and effortless. In Atomic Habits, James Clear emphasizes that it's not enough to set goals like "I want to run a marathon" or "I want to lose weight." Instead, focus on the kind of person who achieves those goals. Rather than aiming to run a marathon, aim to become the type of person who runs regularly. Your identity will then reinforce the habits, making them stick. The compound effect of habits. One of the most eye-opening concepts Clear introduces is the 1% rule. The idea is simple. If you focus on improving by just 1% every day, those small gains will eventually lead to extraordinary outcomes. Over time, these micro-improvements compound, building momentum and creating massive changes in the long run. On the flip side, the same principle applies to bad habits. If you neglect your health by just 1% every day, By skipping workouts or eating poorly, those small declines will also compound and lead to negative consequences over time. The key is consistency. Small habits, whether positive or negative, accumulate faster than we often realize. Why habits are more important than goals. Many of us are taught to focus on setting goals, but James Clear argues that habits are more important than goals. Why? Because goals are about the results you want to achieve, while habits are about the processes that lead to those results. You can set a goal to lose weight, write a book, or save money, but without the right habits in place, you'll struggle to achieve those goals or maintain them once you do. Habits provide a system for achieving your goals, and unlike goals which have an endpoint, habits are ongoing. Once a goal is reached, what happens next? People often revert to old behaviors, but if you focus on building habits, like eating healthily or writing every day, those behaviors become a part of your life, leading to sustained success. Chapter 2: The 4 Laws of Behavior Change. In Atomic Habits, James Clear presents a simple yet profound framework for building good habits and breaking bad ones. He calls this framework the 4 Laws of Behavior Change. These laws serve as actionable steps that help guide you in forming habits that stick and eliminating the ones that don't serve you. Law 1: Make it obvious. The first step to building a new habit is awareness, bringing the behavior into focus. This means identifying the cues that trigger your habits, both good and bad. Every habit starts with a cue, something that prompts you to take a specific action. Clear emphasizes that if you want to create a new habit, you need to make the cue as obvious as possible. Habit stacking. One powerful technique Clear suggests is habit stacking. The idea is to anchor a new habit onto an existing habit that you already do consistently. For example, if you want to start meditating, you could decide, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will meditate for 2 minutes. By linking a new habit to an established routine, you make it easier to remember and integrate into your life. Visual reminders. Another useful strategy is to place visual reminders in your environment. If your goal is to drink more water, place a glass of water next to your bed or on your desk. The more visible the cue, the more likely you are to act on it. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your habits, so it's important to design it in a way that supports your goals. Law 2: Make it attractive. The second law of behavior change is to make the habit attractive. Humans are motivated by rewards, and when something seems enjoyable or desirable, we're more likely to do it. This law taps into our cravings and the brain's natural desire for pleasure. Temptation bundling. One method to make a habit more attractive is called temptation bundling. This technique pairs something you need to do with something you want to do. For example, you might pair your exercise routine with watching your favorite show. The idea is that by linking an action you need to develop with something you already enjoy, you create a positive association that makes the new habit more appealing. Social influence. We are also heavily influenced by the people around us. By surrounding yourself with people who have the habits you want to adopt, you make those habits more attractive. If you want to read more, join a book club. If you want to get fit, spend time with people who prioritize their health. Social influence can either pull you toward positive habits or negative ones. So be mindful of your social circles. Law 3: Make it easy. The third law is perhaps the most straightforward. Make your habit as easy as possible to do. The more friction there is, the less likely you are to follow through. Clear emphasizes that in the beginning, what matters is consistency, not perfection. The 2-minute rule. To get started, Clear recommends the 2-minute rule. The idea is to scale down your habit to something that only takes 2 minutes to complete. Want to start running? Just put on your shoes and step outside. Want to write a book? Write 1 sentence. By lowering the barrier to entry, you create momentum, which often leads to longer sessions once you've started. The hardest part is getting going, and the 2-minute rule helps overcome that hurdle. Reduce friction. In addition, reducing friction between you and your desired habit is key. If you want to eat healthier, prepare meals in advance or place healthy snacks where they're easily accessible. If your goal is to read more, keep a book with you at all times so you can read whenever you have a spare moment. The easier a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it. Law 4. Make it satisfying. Finally, the 4th law of behavior change is to make the habit satisfying. Our brains are wired to repeat actions that are immediately rewarded. The more immediate the reward, the more likely we are to repeat the behavior. Immediate rewards. While some habits don't provide instant gratification, like exercising or saving money, finding ways to make them immediately satisfying can help. For example, after each workout, you could treat yourself to a delicious smoothie or put $1 into a reward jar. The key is to create a small, immediate reward that encourages you to repeat the behavior. Track your progress. Another way to make habits satisfying is through progress tracking. Whether it's crossing off days on a calendar or using a habit tracking app, visually seeing your progress builds a sense of accomplishment. The simple act of checking off each day you complete a habit can be a powerful motivator. Chapter 3. The importance of identity in habit formation. One of the most powerful ideas in Atomic Habits is the role of identity in shaping your habits. While most people focus on outcomes, what they want to achieve, or processes, what they need to do to achieve it, James Clear argues that the key to lasting change lies in shifting your identity, how you see yourself. When your habits align with your identity, they become effortless and sustainable. Identity-based habits. Who do you want to become? At the heart of Clear's philosophy is the notion that true change comes from adopting habits that reinforce the identity you want to embody. Rather than starting with what you want to achieve, outcome-based habits, or how you'll achieve it, process-based habits, start with who you want to become. Identity-based habits. Ask yourself, what kind of person can achieve this goal? What type of person do I want to be? For example, if your goal is to run a marathon, don't just focus on running a certain number of miles each week. Instead, shift your identity to become the kind of person who runs consistently. By doing so, the habit of running becomes a natural part of who you are, not just something you're doing to meet a temporary goal. This shift in focus from doing to being is what makes habits stick. When you see yourself as someone who exercises, eats healthy, or writes regularly, the actions supporting those habits follow effortlessly because they align with your self-perception. The feedback loop of identity and behavior. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a continuous feedback loop. Each time you perform a habit, you cast a vote for the type of person you want to be. If you go to the gym, you're voting to become a fit person. If you sit down to write, you're voting to become a writer. The more you repeat a behavior, the more evidence you collect that reinforces your identity. This is why it's important to focus on small wins early on. Each small action serves as proof that you are becoming the person you want to be. The more votes you cast for a certain identity, the stronger that identity becomes. Think of it like this. Your identity is the outcome of a series of actions. If you consistently act like a person who eats healthy, you will eventually see yourself as a healthy person. When your identity shifts, your habits follow suit, and when your habits reinforce your desired identity, you create a powerful cycle of self-improvement. The two-step process to identity change. James Clear outlines a simple two-step process for identity change. 1. Decide the type of person you want to be. Be clear about the identity you want to adopt. For example, you might decide you want to become someone who is organized, someone who reads more, or someone who stays calm under pressure. This is where you define your new identity. 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You don't need to be perfect, and not every action has to be flawless. But as long as you're casting more votes in favor of your new identity than against it, you'll see progress. Each time you follow through on a habit that supports your desired identity, you reinforce that identity. Over time, these small wins build a sense of confidence and belonging to that identity. Identity versus outcome. Why focusing on identity is more effective. One of the reasons why many people fail to achieve their goals is that they focus too much on the outcomes. While goals are important for providing direction, they often feel distant and overwhelming. For instance, saying, "I want to lose 20 pounds," can feel intimidating, and if progress is slow, it's easy to get discouraged. However, if you shift your focus to your identity, "I'm someone who makes healthy choices," the process becomes more manageable. You're no longer fixated on the end result. Instead, you're committed to acting in line with your new identity every day. This mindset shift makes it easier to build sustainable habits because you're focused on being the person who achieves those results rather than just achieving them as a one-time event. Clear also highlights that by focusing on identity, you create a system for continuous improvement. Goals have an endpoint. Once you reach them, there's often no clear path forward. But identity-based habits are ongoing. When you see yourself as someone who is fit, healthy, or productive, your actions naturally align with that identity for the long term. The power of I am statements. One simple but effective tool for reinforcing your desired identity is the use of I am statements. These are affirmations that align your actions with the type of person you want to become. For example, I am someone who prioritizes my health. I am a person who values learning and reads every day. I am a consistent and reliable worker. These statements help solidify your identity and make it easier to follow through on your habits. The more you say them, the more they become a part of your self-image, which strengthens your commitment to the actions that support them. Chapter 4. How to Build Better Habits with the 4-Stage Habit Loop. James Clear introduces the concept of the habit loop, a continuous cycle that explains how habits are formed and maintained. Every habit follows the same 4-stage process: cue, craving, response, and reward. By understanding this cycle, you can take control of your habits, making good ones easier to form and bad ones easier to break. Stage 1. The trigger that starts a habit. The cue is what initiates a habit. It's the signal your brain receives that tells it to start a behavior. Cues can come in many forms: visual triggers, specific times of day, emotional states, or even other people. These triggers prompt your brain to start a habitual behavior because they are associated with a reward you've received in the past. How to use cues to your advantage. The key to building better habits is making the cue obvious. For example, if your goal is to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before, so they're the first thing you see in the morning. If you want to read more, place your book on your pillow, so you're reminded to read before bed. By creating visual or environmental cues, you're more likely to start the desired behavior. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, make the cue invisible. If you're trying to stop snacking on junk food, don't keep it in the house. If you want to reduce screen time, hide your phone or put it in another room. The harder it is to see the cue, the less likely you are to act on it. Stage 2. Craving, the desire behind the habit. Craving is the motivational force behind every habit. You don't crave the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. For example, you don't crave brushing your teeth. You crave the feeling of a clean mouth. You don't crave exercising. You crave the sense of accomplishment and energy boost afterward. Understanding cravings allows you to tap into the psychology behind habits. If you know what you truly want from a habit, you can make it more attractive and desirable. Conversely, if you understand what you're craving from a bad habit, you can find healthier ways to satisfy that desire. Making good habits more appealing. If you want to build better habits, you need to make the habit as attractive as possible. One strategy for this is temptation bundling, which we discussed earlier. By pairing something you need to do with something you want to do, you make the habit more enticing. For example, if you love listening to podcasts but struggle with working out, you could make a rule that you only listen to podcasts while at the gym. Stage 3. Response. The action you take. The response is the actual habit or action you perform. This is the most visible part of the habit loop. The response can take many forms. It could be a physical action, like going for a run, or a mental decision, like choosing to skip dessert. Whether or not you respond to a cue depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is involved in performing the behavior. Making the response easy. To build better habits, Clear emphasizes that the key is to make the response as easy as possible. This is where the 2-minute rule comes into play. By scaling down your habits to the smallest possible version, like writing one sentence or meditating for 2 minutes, you reduce the friction that might prevent you from getting started. Once you've begun the habit, momentum often carries you forward to do more. In contrast, if you want to break a bad habit, you should make the response as difficult as possible. Adding friction can help stop unwanted behaviors. For example, if you're trying to reduce your screen time, you could place your phone in a different room or delete distracting apps. The harder it is to perform the response, the less likely you are to follow through. Stage 4. Reward. The benefit you gain. The final stage of the habit loop is the reward. Every habit is driven by a desire for some form of reward, whether it's a physical sensation, emotional satisfaction, or a sense of accomplishment. Rewards serve 2 main purposes. They satisfy your craving and teach your brain to remember the habit for the future. If a behavior provides a satisfying reward, you're more likely to repeat it. Making good habits satisfying. To reinforce good habits, Clear suggests making the reward immediate and satisfying. One way to do this is through habit tracking. Whether you use a physical calendar or an app, tracking your progress gives you an immediate sense of satisfaction, which strengthens your commitment to the habit. The visual cue of seeing your progress builds momentum, making it more likely that you'll continue. If you want to break a bad habit, you should make the reward unsatisfying. One effective method is using an accountability partner or joining a group where your actions are public. If you know someone is holding you accountable, the immediate discomfort of disappointing them can outweigh the temporary pleasure of indulging in the bad habit. The habit loop in action. How to master your habits. Understanding the habit loop. Cue, craving, response, and reward gives you the power to master your habits. By making the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying, you can create new habits that stick. Similarly, you can break bad habits by reversing these steps. Make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. Chapter 5. How to create a system for continuous improvement. James Clear emphasizes that lasting success isn't achieved through one-time goals, but through systems of continuous improvement. In this chapter, we explore how you can build a system that works consistently to improve your life, one small step at a time. Goals versus systems. Why focusing on the process matters. Most people set goals. They want to lose weight, write a book, or achieve financial independence. But Clear points out that focusing solely on goals often leads to frustration because goals are about the outcome, while systems are about the process that leads to that outcome. The downside of focusing on goals. The problem with goals is that they set you up for a cycle of disappointment. Once you reach a goal, the motivation often disappears and you revert to old habits. Also, goals can create an all-or-nothing mindset. If you don't achieve your goal, it feels like failure. On the other hand, systems focus on the daily practices that lead to improvement. When you focus on systems, your success is measured not by whether you've reached a goal, but by whether you're making progress. Systems are for long-term success. For example, instead of setting a goal to run a marathon, you could focus on developing a system of running 3 times a week. Instead of setting a goal to lose 20 pounds, you could focus on creating a system of eating nutritious meals and exercising daily. Systems are about continuous improvement, not one-time achievements. The British cycling team example, the power of marginal gains. Clear introduces the example of the British cycling team, which had been historically mediocre until they embraced the philosophy of marginal gains. The idea that if you improve every element of your performance by just 1%, those tiny gains will accumulate into a significant improvement over time. By focusing on small, incremental improvements in everything from their diet to their training routines, the British cycling team transformed from an underperforming group into world champions. This concept is at the heart of creating a system for continuous improvement. Small, consistent changes, no matter how insignificant they seem in the moment, can lead to remarkable results over time. How to apply marginal gains to your own life? You can adopt the philosophy of marginal gains in your own life by focusing on improving the small, seemingly insignificant elements of your routine. These tiny adjustments, when compounded, can lead to profound transformation. Identify areas for small improvements. Take a close look at your daily habits. Is there an area where you can make a 1% improvement? It could be something as small as waking up 5 minutes earlier, drinking an extra glass of water, or reading 1 page of a book. The key is consistency. Over time, these small changes will add up. Track your progress. By tracking your small improvements, you can see the compounding effect in action. For example, if you're trying to become more active, start by walking for just 10 minutes a day. Track this habit for a month, and you'll see how those 10 minutes add up. Progress doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, it becomes visible. Habit stacking. How to build a chain of positive behaviors. One of the most effective strategies for continuous improvement is habit stacking. This technique involves attaching a new habit to an existing one, so the new behavior becomes part of your routine. By leveraging the habits you already have, you can build a chain of positive behaviors that grow stronger over time. How habit stacking works. Let's say you already have a strong habit of making coffee every morning. You could stack a new habit on top of this, like writing for 5 minutes while your coffee brews. Since you're already making coffee every day, adding the writing habit becomes easier, because it's linked to something you already do consistently. Clear suggests using the formula. After current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I brush my teeth, current habit, I will meditate for 2 minutes, new habit. After I sit down to eat lunch, current habit, I will read for 10 minutes, new habit. By chaining habits together, you create a natural flow of positive behaviors that are reinforced by one another. The role of environment in continuous improvement. Your environment plays a crucial role in habit formation. If your surroundings don't support your new habits, you'll find it much harder to stick to them. Conversely, an environment that is optimized for your goals makes habit formation easier. Design your environment for success. If you want to eat healthier, organize your kitchen so that nutritious food is easily accessible and junk food is out of sight. If you want to spend less time on your phone, keep it in another room when you're working. By shaping your environment, you reduce the friction that holds you back and make it easier to engage in the behaviors you want to adopt. Automation. How to keep improving without thinking. Once you've established a system of habits, You want to automate as many decisions as possible. Automation allows you to stay on track without having to rely on willpower or motivation every day. Create routines that run on autopilot. When you've repeated a habit enough times, it becomes automatic. Think of brushing your teeth. You don't have to motivate yourself to do it because it's already ingrained in your routine. The same principle applies to habits like exercising, reading, or saving money. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes, freeing up your mental energy for other tasks. Clear recommends reducing the number of decisions you need to make. Set up systems like meal planning, time blocking, or automating savings so that your habits become a natural part of your life. Chapter 6: How to Break Bad Habits and Stop Self-Sabotage. In this chapter, James Clear addresses one of the biggest challenges we all face: breaking bad habits. While creating good habits is crucial for self-improvement, eliminating bad ones is just as important for growth. Bad habits are often obstacles to success, and Clear offers practical strategies to identify and dismantle them. The root of bad habits. Why do we sabotage ourselves? Bad habits don't happen by accident. They usually emerge because they satisfy some type of immediate need, whether it's stress relief, comfort, or pleasure. The problem is that while they offer short-term rewards, they often come with long-term consequences. Understanding why bad habits form is the first step in breaking them. The habit loop. Every habit follows a pattern known as the cue routine reward loop. Cue. The trigger that initiates the behavior. Routine. The action or behavior itself. Reward. The payoff or satisfaction you get from the behavior. Bad habits stick because they deliver rewards, even if those rewards are temporary. For example, checking your phone may provide a momentary distraction, reward from work stress. Cue. The goal in breaking a bad habit is to disrupt this loop. Inversion of the 4 laws of behavior change. James Clear outlines 4 laws for creating good habits, and to break bad habits, you need to invert those same laws. Let's break them down. 1. Make it invisible. Cue. The first step in breaking a bad habit is to reduce your exposure to the cue that triggers it. If you can't see the temptation, you're less likely to indulge in the behavior. Practical tip. If you're trying to stop snacking on junk food, keep it out of your house. If you want to reduce screen time, leave your phone in another room when you're working. The key is to make the cue less visible. 2. Make it unattractive. Craving. Bad habits are often driven by a craving for something enjoyable. To combat this, you need to reframe how you think about the habit. Instead of focusing on the short-term pleasure it brings, think about the negative long-term effects. Practical tip. If you want to stop smoking, for example, instead of focusing on the stress relief it provides, focus on the long-term damage to your health. By associating the habit with negative outcomes, you make it less appealing. 3. Make it difficult. Routine. Make the bad habit harder to do. Increase the friction between you and the behavior so that it takes more effort to engage in it. Practical tip. If you're trying to cut down on social media use, you could delete the apps from your phone or turn off notifications. The harder it is to access the behavior, the less likely you'll be to follow through. 4. Make it unsatisfying. Reward. Finally, make the bad habit less rewarding. Find ways to introduce immediate consequences for engaging in the habit. Practical tip: set up accountability with a friend or use a habit tracker to monitor your progress. If you don't follow through on your commitment to quit a bad habit, impose a small penalty on yourself, like donating to a cause you dislike. Identify triggers. What's causing the bad habit? To break a bad habit, it's essential to identify what triggers it in the first place. Triggers can be emotional, stress, boredom, or frustration. Environmental, being in a specific place or around certain people. Situational, certain times of day or activities, like watching TV or taking a break from work. Once you identify the trigger, you can either avoid it or reframe it in a way that reduces its power. For example, If stress triggers emotional eating, consider alternative stress relief activities, like taking a walk or meditating. The role of identity in breaking bad habits. One of the most powerful ideas in Atomic Habits is that habits are deeply tied to our sense of identity. To break a bad habit, you need to change the way you see yourself. Instead of just saying, "I want to stop smoking," reframe it as, "I'm not a smoker." When you identify as someone who doesn't engage in the bad habit, it becomes easier to resist. Reinforcing a new identity. Each time you resist a bad habit, you're casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Over time, these small decisions accumulate and strengthen your new identity. The key to breaking a bad habit is not just to stop doing something, but to become someone who no longer identifies with that behavior. The 2-minute rule for stopping bad habits. Clear's 2-minute rule can be used to stop bad habits just as effectively as it can be used to build good ones. The idea is simple. If a bad habit can be interrupted within the first 2 minutes, it becomes easier to stop it entirely. For example, if you want to stop binge-watching TV, commit to turning off the TV after the first episode. If you're trying to stop eating unhealthy snacks, commit to waiting 2 minutes before reaching for a snack. By interrupting the habit in its early stages, you prevent it from gaining momentum. Replace bad habits with good ones. One of the most effective ways to break a bad habit is to replace it with a positive one. Habits leave a void when they're eliminated, so it's crucial to fill that void with something constructive. For example, if you're trying to stop checking your phone during work hours, replace that habit with a productive activity like reading or writing. Dealing with setbacks. Why breaking a habit is harder than building one. Breaking bad habits can be challenging because the neural pathways for those behaviors are already deeply ingrained. It's normal to experience setbacks along the way. Clear emphasizes that the key is to not let a single failure derail your progress. One bad day doesn't mean you've failed. What matters is that you get back on track as soon as possible. Chapter 7. The secret to making habits stick for the long term. Now that we've explored how to build good habits and break bad ones, it's time to dive into the ultimate challenge: how to make habits stick. Building habits that last requires more than just willpower. It's about designing systems that support consistency and long-term success. In this chapter, James Clear provides us with actionable insights into how we can ensure that the habits we've worked so hard to develop continue to serve us in the future. The importance of systems over goals. One of the core lessons in Atomic Habits is that focusing on systems is far more effective than focusing on goals. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Clear argues that goals are useful for setting direction, but systems are essential for making progress. For example, goal: run a marathon. System: train 4 times a week and gradually increase your distance. The problem with focusing solely on goals is that once the goal is achieved, the motivation often fades. But with a system, you have a sustainable process in place that can be repeated consistently, ensuring long-term success. Habit tracking: the power of visible progress. One of the most effective tools for making habits stick is habit tracking. When you visually track your habits, you're able to see your progress, and that progress becomes its own form of motivation. Every day you stick to your habit, you mark it on a calendar or in a habit tracker. The goal then becomes maintaining your streak. Why habit tracking works. Immediate reward. Tracking your habit provides an immediate sense of accomplishment. Accountability. It holds you accountable to your actions because the evidence is right in front of you. Motivation. As your streak grows longer, you'll feel more motivated to keep going. You won't want to break the chain of success. Practical tip: use a simple habit tracker, an app or a paper calendar, to mark every day you complete your desired habit. Even if you miss a day, make sure to get back on track immediately. The key is to never miss 2 days in a row. Habit stacking, building a chain of positive behaviors. We've talked about habit stacking earlier as a way to create new habits, but it's also an excellent tool for long-term habit maintenance. Habit stacking is about linking a new habit to an existing one, creating a chain of positive behaviors that are hard to break. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, an existing habit, you could stack a new habit on top of that, such as doing 10 push-ups right after brushing. The more you stack habits together, the easier it becomes to maintain them, because they're connected. Practical tip. If you want to maintain a reading habit, you might stack it with your morning coffee routine. Every time you make your coffee, read for 10 minutes. This makes your habit part of an established routine. Create a reward system. Reinforce your good habits. Another way to make habits stick is to create a reward system that reinforces your behavior. Rewards can be intrinsic, feeling good about yourself, or extrinsic, treating yourself to something enjoyable. The key is to find rewards that are meaningful to you and tied directly to the habit. Practical tip. If you've been consistent with your new exercise habit for a month, reward yourself with a new workout outfit or a relaxing day at the spa. The reward gives you something to look forward to and strengthens your commitment to the habit. Design your environment for success. Your environment plays a significant role in your ability to maintain habits. Clear suggests designing your environment in a way that makes good habits easier and bad habits harder. Make good habits obvious. If you want to practice guitar more often, leave it out in a place where you can see it. Make bad habits invisible. If you want to stop watching so much TV, keep the remote in a drawer instead of on the coffee table. The easier it is to engage in a good habit, the more likely you are to stick with it. Conversely, making bad habits harder to access helps eliminate them. Accountability partners. Social influence for habit maintenance. Social accountability is another powerful tool for making habits stick. When you share your goals with someone or work with a partner who's also building similar habits, it creates a support system that encourages consistency. Practical tip. If you're trying to maintain a workout routine, find a workout buddy. If you're trying to stick to a reading habit, join a book club or an online community where you can share your progress. The role of identity in long-term habit formation. Clear emphasizes that the ultimate way to make habits stick is to align them with your identity. Instead of focusing on outcomes, focus on becoming the type of person who engages in those habits. For example, instead of saying, "I want to run a marathon," start saying, "I'm a runner." When your habits become tied to your identity, they're no longer just tasks you complete. They become part of who you are. Embrace the plateau of latent potential. One of the final lessons Clear shares is that habits often follow a plateau of latent potential. In the early stages, progress might feel slow or invisible, but eventually your efforts compound and you experience breakthrough results. This plateau is where most people give up because they don't see immediate success. The key is to keep going, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Over time, your habits will compound and the results will follow. Conclusion. Tiny changes, remarkable results. In Atomic Habits, James Clear shows us that the small habits we build today lead to the remarkable changes we experience in the future. By focusing on tiny, consistent actions, we can transform our behavior, our identity, and ultimately our lives. The secret to making habits stick is to design systems that support them. Track your progress and embrace the slow and steady journey. When you build habits that align with your identity and values, they become second nature. And it's this compounding effect of daily habits that leads to extraordinary success. Thank you for joining us at the Book Echo as we explored Atomic Habits by James Clear. We hope these insights inspire you to take control of your habits and make lasting positive changes in your life. Stay tuned for more wisdom-packed book summaries. And remember, small changes, done consistently, lead to remarkable results.